The world never plays fair. No matter how honest you are, someone will betray you. No matter how skilled you become, someone less qualified will take your spot. That's reality. But those who understand this reality, they survive. And those who survive, they rule. This is a power you can't see, but everyone feels it. This is dark intelligence. Dark intelligence is born when people get betrayed, humiliated, and defeated. Others break down, but you build strength from that pain. It's the kind of intelligence that listens, watches, stays quiet, and strikes at the perfect moment. While others argue, you gather information. While they get angry, you calculate. While they drown in emotions, you plan the future. Most people play checkers. You're about to learn how to play chess. But before we dive deep, let me be crystal clear. This knowledge is for protection, not destruction. Use it to defend yourself, not to hurt innocent people. The goal is to understand the game, not to become the villain. Today, you'll discover the 8 psychological traits that separate survivors from victims, leaders from followers, winners from losers. Now I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I choose to be strategically intelligent, not emotionally reactive. Now let's unlock the secrets that powerful people don't want you to know. Number 1. Calculated opacity. You're never completely clear about your intentions. You show only what's necessary. When people know half the story, they fill in the blanks with their imagination. And that imagination, it controls them. Machiavelli once said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." Think about the most intriguing people you've ever encountered. The ones who quietly command attention without demanding it. They never rush to explain themselves. They never overshare. They leave space, intentional silence where certainty should be. And in that silence, something unsettling happens. Your mind starts working for them. You begin to speculate. You project meaning. You assign depth. This is not coincidence. This is structure. Calculated opacity is not deception. It is restraint. It is the discipline of knowing that clarity, when given too freely, dissolves influence. Most people, driven by anxiety, feel compelled to explain themselves fully. Motivations, fears, plans, believing transparency equals trust. But power doesn't move that way. Power moves through scarcity. When you reveal everything, you become predictable. Predictability invites control. The moment people believe they fully understand you, they stop paying attention. Mystery, on the other hand, keeps the nervous system alert. Curiosity sharpens focus, and focused attention is the doorway to influence. Imagine the simple question, what are you doing this weekend? A harmless exchange, unless you understand the game beneath it. Full transparency makes you invisible. Strategic ambiguity makes you memorable. One answer closes the conversation. The other opens a loop that lingers long after the moment passes. And the human mind hates open loops. It seeks resolution. It watches more closely. This is the quiet danger most people never notice. Every word you give away teaches others how to treat you. Every unnecessary explanation leaks leverage. Information is not just knowledge. It is positioning. Spend it carelessly, and you weaken yourself. Guard it wisely, and your presence gains weight. But here is the warning most never hear. Mystery is not about pretending. It's about control. Control over timing. Control over narrative. Control over how and when access to you is earned. The people who master this aren't louder than others. They're rarer, and rarity changes value. If you fail to learn this, you won't just be misunderstood. You'll be managed by people who know how to extract clarity from you while giving none in return. And once that balance shifts, regaining it becomes painfully difficult. This is only the first layer, and already the game has changed. Number 2, adaptive persona. You're not the same person with everyone. You adjust your personality based on who you're talking to. People think they know you, but they only know one version of you. Machiavelli once said, "A prince ought to take care that he never lets anything slip from his lips that is not replete with the 5 qualities mentioned above, that he may appear to him who sees and hears him altogether merciful, faithful, humane, upright, and religious." This is where most people panic. They hear this and immediately think deception, masks, fake behavior. But that reaction reveals a deeper misunderstanding of human nature. You already adapt. Instinctively. You don't speak to your grandmother the same way you speak to your friends. You don't behave at a job interview the way you do at a party. The difference is that most people do this unconsciously. Power begins when the process becomes intentional. Adaptive persona is not about becoming someone else. It's about choosing which part of yourself is most effective in a given moment. Every person you meet lives inside a different psychological world, shaped by values, fears, priorities, and perception filters. If you insist on communicating the same way with everyone, you will only reach people who already think like you. Everyone else will miss you completely. Smart individuals observe first. They notice how someone processes information. Do they lean on logic or emotion? Do they respond to structure or vision? Do they want reassurance or momentum? When you adjust your delivery to match their internal language, something subtle happens. Resistance drops. Understanding accelerates. People feel seen without knowing why. Think of water. It adapts to every container it enters, yet never stops being water. That's the balance. Your values remain fixed. Your integrity remains untouched. Only the expression shifts. The danger comes when people confuse authenticity with rigidity. Authenticity is not sameness. It's alignment. You are still yourself, just translated. Master this, and you become unusually versatile. Negotiations soften. Leadership strengthens. Relationships deepen. People walk away feeling understood, even when you didn't give them what they wanted. But here's the line you never cross. Never adapt so much that you dissolve. Principles are anchors. Lose them, and adaptability turns into emptiness. Number 3, the principle of detachment. This is where the tone changes. This is where fear quietly enters the room. You're not a slave to any relationship, emotion, or outcome. What you're not afraid to lose cannot control you. And what cannot control you cannot manipulate you. Machiavelli once said, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." Detachment is not coldness. It's freedom. Most people live trapped by invisible chains. Fear of losing approval, fear of being alone, fear of uncertainty. These fears decide their actions long before logic ever gets a vote. Look closely, and you'll see it everywhere. People tolerate disrespect to keep their jobs. They abandon values to keep relationships. They silence themselves to remain liked. Fear of loss makes people predictable. Predictability makes them weak. Detachment reverses the equation. When you're willing to walk away, clarity sharpens. In any negotiation, the person with options holds the power, not because they threaten, but because they don't need. The moment you stop being desperate for an outcome, you regain the ability to think strategically instead of emotionally. Here's the paradox that unsettles most people. The less you need something, the more likely you are to get it. Confidence isn't born from constant success. It's born from knowing you'll survive failure. When you're no longer negotiating from fear, people feel it, and they respond differently. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care without being owned by the outcome. You still work hard. You still invest emotionally. But you never surrender your judgment to desperation. This is what protects you from manipulation. Frets only work when there's something you're terrified of losing. Practice this gradually. Let go of needing to win every argument. Let go of needing universal approval. Let go of rigid plans that must unfold perfectly. As this grip loosens, something interesting happens. People start respecting you more, not because you demand it, but because you can't be easily controlled. And once control slips away from others, the balance of power quietly shifts. Number 4, silent leverage. This is where power becomes invisible. You don't apply pressure. You don't raise your voice. You wait. And while you wait, people reveal themselves. When mistakes surface and weaknesses appear, your silence becomes heavier than any threat. Machiavelli once said, "Never was anything great achieved without danger." Most people believe power announces itself. They think it's loud, forceful, and obvious. That belief exposes them.
Real power lowers its voice, it slows the pace. Silent leverage works because human beings are deeply uncomfortable with uncertainty. When you don't rush to fill space with words, others do it for you, and in doing so, they give away information. In conversation, silence controls rhythm. A pause after a difficult question shifts the balance instantly. The other person starts second-guessing, they talk more, they explain, they leak intent. And when you finally speak, your words land heavier because they were not rushed. Silence turns patience into pressure. In negotiations, silent leverage is built long before the meeting begins. It's having options you don't need to mention.
It's being genuinely willing to walk away. You never threaten. You don't posture. Your calm does the work for you. People sense when you're not cornered, and they negotiate differently when they know you can leave. In relationships, silent leverage shows up as value without demand. You contribute. You solve problems. You make life easier for those around you. Not loudly, consistently. Over time, people begin to protect what benefits them. Loyalty forms without being requested. Influence grows without being claimed. This is not passivity, it's positioning. Silent leverage requires patience, and patience terrifies people who need immediate validation. You plant seeds knowing you won't harvest today. You invest knowing the return comes later. And that delay filters out the impulsive from the strategic. Then comes number 5, psychological echo. And this is where awareness becomes dangerous. You don't just hear what people say, you hear what they mean. You reflect their deepest needs and unspoken fears back to them. Machiavelli once said, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see, and few can feel." Every person you meet is carrying invisible weight, desires they don't admit, insecurities they don't name, questions they're afraid to ask. Most people are too busy waiting for their turn to speak to notice this. You listen differently. You listen for emotion beneath language. When someone complains, they're rarely asking for solutions. They're asking to be seen. When someone boasts, they're often revealing insecurity. When someone is angry, there is almost always fear underneath it. Psychological echo means reflecting that deeper layer, not to manipulate, but to understand. There are 3 silent questions every human is asking. Do you see me? Do you understand me? Do I matter to you? When your words answer those questions, resistance collapses, trust accelerates, influence follows. Here is the emotional climax, the moment most people never realize until it's too late. The person who understands your psychology better than you do can guide your decisions without force. They don't argue. They don't push. They align. And alignment is far more powerful than control. This is the warning. If you cannot recognize psychological echo, you will confuse understanding with honesty, influence with care, and alignment with truth. And you will follow someone who never needed to command you. Used ethically, this skill builds deep, meaningful connections. Used without restraint, it becomes one of the most dangerous tools in human interaction. What decides the outcome is not the technique, but the intention behind it. And the deeper you go, the less black and white the world becomes. Number 6, ambiguous morality. This is where discomfort sets in. You're neither purely good nor purely bad. You focus on outcomes. Real power doesn't live in clean lines. It lives in gray zones where consequences matter more than appearances. Machiavelli once said, "Since it is difficult to join them together, it is safer to be feared than to be loved when one of the two must be lacking." This trait frightens people because it forces an uncomfortable truth into the open. The world is complex. Situations collide. And sometimes, doing what looks right creates damage that lasts far longer than doing what feels harsh. Ambiguous morality does not mean abandoning ethics. It means understanding that surface-level kindness can enable harm, and difficult decisions can prevent greater suffering. Leaders face this reality constantly. Protecting many may require disappointing one. Telling the truth may hurt before it heals. The question shifts from, "How do I look?" to, "What result does this create?" That shift alone separates those who hesitate from those who act. But here's the line that cannot blur: responsibility. Every choice carries weight.
And ambiguous morality demands you carry that weight consciously. Number 7. Controlled exposure. You don't reveal everything about yourself. And in a world addicted to oversharing, restraint becomes power. The less people know, the more they assume. And assumptions create mistakes that work in your favor. Machiavelli once said, "Men are so simple of mind, and so much dominated by their immediate needs, that a deceitful person will always find plenty who are ready to be deceived." Human curiosity is relentless. When information is incomplete, the mind fills the gaps automatically. Controlled exposure uses this without lying. You share selectively. You pace disclosure. You understand that once something is revealed, it cannot be taken back. Timing becomes as important as content. In professional life, this means revealing capability gradually. In social life, it means earning depth instead of dumping it. In the digital world, it means realizing every post becomes a permanent psychological footprint. The goal is not secrecy, it is narrative control. You decide what defines you, before others do it for you. Then comes the final trait. Number 8. Outcome obsession. This is where all intelligence either becomes lethal or useless. You're not here to win arguments. You're here to get results. Machiavelli once said, "The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present." Outcome-obsessed people think differently. They don't ask how to look smart. They ask what actually works. They don't cling to methods. They cling to results. Arguments become tools, not battlegrounds. Effort becomes secondary to impact. Activity without progress is exposed as avoidance. This mindset is ruthless, but clarifying. You stop confusing motion with advancement. You abandon strategies that fail, no matter how attached you are to them. You focus energy where it multiplies. Over time, a reputation forms, not of noise, but of delivery, and that reputation bends reality in your favor. Here's the final awakening. Dark intelligence was never about dominating others. It was about becoming immune to manipulation. Power over yourself, power over your reactions, power over the forces that quietly steer most lives without consent. The world will test you. People will attempt to influence you. Outcomes will demand sacrifice. What you choose to apply from this determines your trajectory. Pick one trait, practice it for 7 days. Watch how the dynamic around you shifts. Because the most dangerous person isn't the one with nothing to lose. It's the one who understands psychology and chooses restraint. If this changed how you see power and intelligence, like the video. Subscribe for deeper insights into strategy and human behavior. Comment which trait you see in the most successful people around you, and which one you'll practice first. Miss this path, and you'll keep reacting. Follow it, and you'll start shaping outcomes.